Welcome back to the Paranoid Perspective. I am Jake.
I'm Sarah.
Today, I'm kind of excited because I like talking about things, or I like listening to things that I don't really know a whole lot about. I've seen a handful of clips on YouTube about this topic. I want to say I watched maybe one of the podcast episodes that you and your previous podcast host did on this,
Yeah.
but I don't really know a whole lot about this. So let's just hop right into it. So, Sarah, what are we talking about
Okay.
today?
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about the Glico Morinaga case, which is also known as the monster with 21 faces. And this happened in Japan, which I feel like most people haven't heard about it then since, well, for our perspective, because we're Americans, so no one
Well,
talks about international. But
I was going to say a handful of friends that saw the first episode were asking, what was coming up, and I kind of teased this one a little bit, and the handful of people that I talked to were like, "What?"
yeah.
So
Yeah, it's an interesting one. So this was basically like a crime spree, like extortion kind of thing from some unknown person or group. And it spanned 17 months and it
okay,
started in March 1984. So like 40 years ago at this point.
right.
And it went until August 1985. So yeah, it was a pretty long time. But this group or person or whatever, the monster with 21 faces, they were blackmailing food companies for ransom, and they never actually collected any of the ransom as far as we know. So that's weird. And they also were poisoning these companies' like products and putting them on the shelf. So it's kind of like the Tylenol murders too, but
Okay, yeah. So
yeah.
I mean, I know we're going to get into it, but
Yeah.
I wonder why, if you're going to put up a ransom, I mean, that seems so dumb to kind of like half-ass it. You know what I mean? Why wouldn't you
Right.
just collect it? Well, I guess then you
Right. Yeah.
probably would have been some way to trace it back, because one of these that's kind of the thing that I like about this is how it's really an unsolved, not to coin a phrase, but an unsolved mystery, as to
Right.
what
Yeah.
happened. So,
Yeah. And it's like one of the only unsolved cases from Japan still.
oh, really?
Like, so it's probably never going to be solved if
Yeah,
it's this,
right.
but yeah, they usually solve all their things, but there's also like Japan doesn't always categorize things correctly. So
Oh,
if they
well,
think it can't be solved or whatever.
yeah. We can't be
So
bothered to do this.
yeah. But it started in Osaka, which is kind of more in the middle of the country. It's by Kyoto, if anyone knows that. But by the end, it like branched out to Tokyo at least, so that's pretty
Okay.
far.
Yeah.
And in total, this person or group they sent 147 letters to companies, police, and the media, like for various like taunts or like give us money or whatever. So like that's so many letters to send in 17 months. So
I mean, yeah, that would be, you know, uh, I like how you keep saying person or group, you know what I mean? That's how unclear it really is of what
yeah.
it, because if you look at like what I was seeing was just the baseline kind of story, kind of doing a little bit of my own like little, I didn't want to come in here completely blind. But yeah, that
Yep.
was one of the first things that I was thinking. I'm like, this seems like way too organized just to be like a random dude. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah. I mean, we'll get into it, but I feel like it was a group just from the scale. Like how
Right.
could one person do all of this? But
Hmm.
so it started with Glico and it kind of ended with Morinaga, or those were the two big companies that they went after. So that's why it's called the Glico Morinaga case. But first, a couple things with Glico that were prior to 1984 that maybe like served as a motive. So like 1977 to 78, they were dumping like starch and other liquid waste into a nearby river and like clogging up drains. And
Yeah,
like it caused a gross like odor and residents like complained about it, and there were a lot of protests that were organized like against them, and like they tried to deny it, of course, like every other company does.
sure.
So like that could have caused some resentment to like build up to this. And also In 1978, they were caught up in a labor dispute because they wanted to relocate workers from like the Kyoto factory. And also like a blackmail tape at the same time was sent to a Glico board member to like try and resolve this or like blackmail him into not doing it. And then 1979, they had another disagreement like with the labor union over like a personnel reshuffle.
Mm.
So could have been a disgruntled employee that maybe started all of this
Or
or a
a
resident.
crazy environmentalist that didn't want a river of mashed potatoes flowing through their
Right.
town.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty bad. Oh, yeah. March 18th, 1984 at 9 p.m. Two men wearing ski masks and they had a gun and a rifle. They entered the residence of Katsuhisa Izaki, who was the president of Glico at the time. Um, so to enter his residence, they first like went to his mom's residence, which was right next door, and because they knew she had a key, I think. So they
Uh,
tied her up, yeah, and they took the spare key. And then once they entered his house, they went like straight upstairs, and his wife and daughter were watching TV. They tied them up, and then like his wife begged to like let them go because they thought they were robbers, and they were like, "We don't need money." So they from the get go, they don't care about the money apparently.
well, it means that is a noble cause then. It's not about the money. It's about sending a
Right.
message.
Yeah. And they cut the telephone line. And then they went to the bathroom. So Izaki and his two other children were taking a bath together, which is like very common in Japanese culture.
Right.
And they took him out of the bath, so he's naked. They took him to a riverside warehouse on the outskirts of Osaka in Ibaraki, and they held him for ransom. They wanted 1 billion yen and 100 kilograms of gold, which is 220 pounds of gold.
Okay.
Yeah,
Logistically, this doesn't make sense already, but all right.
right. And 1 billion yen, like then, would be like 8.7 million US dollars today.
Oh, well,
So
I
it was
guess,
like,
I mean, that is a lot of money, but I mean, if he is, a major tycoon of a
yeah,
corporation, I guess that's probably fairly
right.
reasonable. Well,
Yeah,
the one thing I'm seeing with this though, it sounds like they knew details. You know,
yeah,
if you knew to go to the mother's house first to get the key, there was no time wasted like searching the house. It was just, hey, we're going straight up here. We know where he's at. We know what they're doing. You know,
yep.
that seems very pre-planned and a lot of stuff was already known prior to.
Yeah, they probably had been watching him for a while.
Right.
Yeah. But 3 days later, he frees himself, and the police found him. So they didn't pay any
Interesting.
money or anything. Yeah. From like what I found, like the kidnappers had left the warehouse and like left him there, and they had like loosely tied the rope, like kind of on purpose, like so he
Oh,
would
to
be
what
able to
I
escape.
see. Yeah, I gotcha. I gotcha.
Yeah. So April 2nd, so like a couple weeks later, eye drops with hydrochloric acid were sent to his residence
Oh,
with a
fuck.
letter, yeah, with a letter demanding ransom again, since he got away, I guess. And like part of the letter said, "You broke your promise, you ran away. I told you if you went back, I'd kill you and Mariko," which is his daughter, who is 8 at the time, and it like lists like how their people want to blow up his house and kill his daughter and whatever, and like the letter is written as if it's like the writer is preventing that from happening. So that's why I feel like it's a group too.
Right. Already right off the rip, it feels too organized for just a
Yeah,
single person. I could see a single person being upset, but in that, well of emotion, you would be reckless. You wouldn't be pre-planning things. You would just go for it. You know what I mean? Probably
right.
fail
Yeah,
miserably as well on top of that.
practically. Yeah. Yeah, and like this letter specifically says nakama in Japanese, which means like crew. It's kind of like
Oh,
like it
okay.
can mean friend, but it really means like a crew. So that's another reason I feel like, unless, I mean, they could just be writing that, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, could just be some
Um,
madman.
yeah, who has also resources to make this happen or whatever.
Hey,
And it says they're giving him one more chance and they want money. and it outlines how they want the money dropped off on April 8th at 7 p.m., which like the police like prepare for that. They go there on April 8th, but no one collects the money. No one shows up.
Oh, so they
And like
actually did have the money ready for it, and just nobody came and got it?
yes. And they went to the drop off. No one showed up. Police didn't see anything like weird. So like by 9 p.m. they were like, we're out of here.
Right.
So
Can't be bothered to sit here all night.
yeah, so that didn't happen. And then also on April 8th, a letter from the monster was sent to the police, which basically just berated the police. And it also like contained clues, but the clues weren't helpful. But
Well, I wouldn't imagine they would be helpful if you just wasted their time, because that was clearly what that was
yeah,
about. You know what I mean?
right.
We're just gonna get the ransom money together and not show up. You know, it once again,
Yeah,
it sounds like it's not. It sounds too purposeful. Of we just want to give them the runaround more than anything, cause
yeah.
confusion and hysteria more than just get some cash real quick.
Right. Yeah, the letter read, Dear dumb police officers, you seem to be at a loss. Why not let us help? We'll give you some clues. We entered the factory by the front gate where they kept him. The typewriter we used was a pan writer for the letters. The car was gray and the food was bought at Die, which refers to like the car that kidnapped him and the food they had bought him over the 3 days. And it signed the monster with 21 faces. So like they're calling themselves that.
Ah,
But obviously these clues didn't help anything, so
were they actually like? I'm assuming they were probably followed to some extent by the police. It would have been okay. We're going to check this out, and it just was, you know, another empty lead
right.
after empty lead, right?
Yeah, I mean a gray car, like okay.
Sure, right. The
And
most,
this pan writer, like
yeah, the most broad and general clues I can give you. Here you go,
right,
dumb
yeah, let's
police
help you out.
officers.
Right. Also, like, I want to say all the letters that they sent, all like 147 letters, they're all written in hiragana, which is the most basic form of Japanese. So it's like elementary
Oh,
school
okay.
writing. So some people think maybe this group's not very educated or like they're not college graduates or whatever, but
Well, could they possibly not even be from the country? They're taking,
maybe.
you know.
Yeah. And it said it was written with an Osaka accent. So they're thinking the person's from Osaka. I mean, a lot of this started in Osaka too, but like you could just type that, right? Like it's a
Yeah,
letter.
I mean, if I was, I don't know, if I didn't live near the South or in the South, I could put y'all in everything that I write, and they'd be like, "Oh, got a Southern accent, must be south of the Mason-Dixon line." You know what I mean?
Right, yeah. Yeah, but they're thinking it's someone there, like local.
Hmm.
So April 10th, so like 2 days after that, there's a fire at Glico headquarters in the prototyping department, like inside the building, and it spreads to other
Mm.
areas before it's like put out. But it damaged 166 square meters, which is 1,786 square feet.
So pretty big fire then.
Yeah. And then 20 minutes later, several cars at Glico Nutrition's headquarters were also set on fire,
Oh,
which
so not even the same
these are
spot.
close to each other, though.
Oh, okay. So I was
It's
thinking it
like
was.
kind of part of the same campus.
I see. So it's like sort of like how if you drove by like an industrial park or something like that, how you would have multiple
Yeah.
corporate. Okay, okay. I was thinking it was like halfway across town or something. You know.
No, but yeah, they're both Glico, so and maybe that person, I mean, maybe that person who set the first fire hung around for 20 minutes to set the other fire, I guess.
Well, that's not too uncommon with people that do crime and whatnot, especially stuff like arson or anytime police are investigating. That's usually one of the first places, at least in the United States. I don't know if it's the same sort of culture in Asia or Japan, especially, but returning to see the investigation to kind of like admire their work.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I would say that's probably similar
Yeah.
for them too. I mean, if you're a psycho, then
Sure. Yes.
psycho's
Yeah. It does.
universal.
There's no cultural bounds when you're psychopath.
Yeah. So 2 days later, April 12th, the case is elevated to a national case under the National Police Agency of Japan. So that's kind of like the FBI.
Right.
So the local police are like, we need help with this. and it's given the case number 114. And then April 16th, a plastic container full of hydrochloric acid was found inside a Glico company building in Ibaraki, which was like by where the president had been held.
Mm.
So,
So just
but
a
it's just like sitting there.
I was gonna say just a random container. I mean, like, yeah, you don't want to touch it and
Yeah.
stuff, but it's not causing any problems if it's just in the middle of the floor.
I
So
think it's just supposed to like send a message, like we can get in there too
yeah,
and
well,
put it there.
that's kind of what I'm seeing through this. It's not like you said, not about taking ransom. It's not anything like that. It's about showing you don't have any control over what we do and we can get to you. You know,
Right.
having that
Yeah.
psychological warfare aspect to it.
Yeah. So April 22nd, another letter is sent to Izaki saying, I'm very happy. So, like, apparently Izaki said he'd cooperate with I mean, he already tried to cooperate by sending the money, but they get instructions again on where to drop off the money on April 24th, like 2 days later, and still no one shows up to collect this. So they're trying to give them the money, like each time, and it's just
Well,
nope.
they're trying to do that, but it's also a sting at the same time. I mean, these people
Well,
are
yeah, yeah, that
they're not stupid.
right.
They understand what's about to
Yeah,
happen.
right. I mean, some people say like they did want the money, but they knew that they'd be caught if they went to get the money, so they just never actually. But it's like, why do you keep asking that? Like,
Well, from what it sounds like so far, it's more of a game
yeah,
to them than or that person than anything.
right. Yeah. So May 10th, there's a letter to police again, calling the police liars and saying Glico was insolent, I guess because they didn't get their money. And they said there were two products injected with zero point zero 0.05 grams of sodium cyanide in stores somewhere between Nagoya and Okayama, which is like 350 kilometers or 220 miles away from each other. So just two products. And this is not enough to like kill most people, but it would hospitalize anyone who ate it.
Mm,
And then they said in 10 days, they would inject 8 more products with zero point 0.1 gram of sodium cyanide, which is enough to kill someone. And they said they would put that between Tokyo and Fukuoka, which is an even bigger area. And then they said 10 days after that, they'd inject 10 more products with zero point 0.2 grams in stores between Hokkaido and Okinawa, which is literally the whole country of Japan.
right. So at this point, as far as the like poisoning foods thing, I think that seems more like a scare tactic than anything. Because
Yeah,
don't get me
for
wrong.
now.
Well, I know I'm not jumping ahead. I'm just saying for now,
Yeah.
I don't mean to sound cold or heartless. I just don't think that would be like if you look at a countrywide thing, it's like, okay, 10 people might get killed by this. We need to investigate it, but at the same time, there's more people that die every day in the country than what's happening here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So as of right now, I'm not trying to discredit it. I'm not trying to say it's not a big deal, but at scale, from just a looking at the amount of people affected, it's not really that big of a deal just yet.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you would the at this time period too was a huge like Yakuza war between two different
Mm,
groups. So you
okay.
would think they'd have more to worry about.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, the letter ended with eat Glico and let's go to the graveyard. So, and then parts of this were shared in the media. So the next day, major companies pulled like all of Glico's products, and this caused their stock to plummet. So over like the next 2 weeks, Glico's stock price went to 485 yen per share, which before it was 550 yen per share. So it didn't,
Mm,
I mean,
didn't
that's a
really,
drop, but
yeah, I mean, but
it's not
didn't
like a
really,
lot.
no. Once again, I think that that might have been that initial goal is just to disrupt the company, you know,
Right.
not only freaking them out, but you start messing with their money and they can't, produce product anymore. Companies are going to put it on the shelf. Well, you're going to go under.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're still around today, which is like remarkable that they survived this,
Hmm.
but that is crazy. So May 20th, a letter is sent to a supplier of Glico this time, and it says, give this letter to Glico's president or we'll come after you too. So now they're using other people to
Going to
give
the
the letters
source.
to. Yeah. So the letter to the president basically berates them for the stock plummet, saying, like, aren't you guys businessmen? You're supposed to be making money, not losing it. Like, yeah, it's all this taunting stuff.
You guys suck at running your business. Look what you did.
Right, yeah. It also says next Valentine's Day will be laced with cyanide. So, like, they're kind of being like, this isn't gonna stop. So May 31st, which is what, like 11 days later, another letter is to Izaki for a drop off on June 2nd, which the instructions were followed and it had a lot of undercover cops, just like the other time, to
Sure.
see if they could find anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But this time they were instructed to leave the cash in a car, and the driver would take the keys from a Glico manager and drive the car like to the group. Like someone would meet up with them. And so the police installed a kill switch in the car. So like it would
Oh,
die
okay.
once
Yeah, yeah,
they
yeah.
switched it. Yeah. So the plan worked, but the driver ended up being a 22-year-old who had been a victim of carjacking. And his date that he was on, like 18-year-old date, was held captive to make him drive the car for the
Oh,
monster.
wow.
Yeah. So
So
like
this
that
is
was crazy.
this is like way, way deeper than anything. They're
Yeah.
they're having third party people influence to
Right.
do their bidding at this point. That is insane.
Yeah. Yeah. So like that driver like gives the police officer like the where to meet up, where he was told to meet up. And then an investigator drives the car there. And then like a suspicious car starts like overtaking that car, I think to try and get them to like crash or so they can take the money or something.
Hmm.
But that car gets away, and then once the police make it to the meeting point, like no one's there anymore. So
I mean, that might have been an actual attempt to get the cash that time. You know what I mean?
yeah,
They
right.
that seems a little bit more planned out, way more organized. And that's
Yeah,
insane to me. That's I'm already on board with you, man. There's no way that this was just one person. There's
right.
no way that one person
Yeah.
would be able to do that.
Unless they're just hiring what, like Yakuza or something, like hitmen or
Maybe.
something, like what?
I mean, suppose I don't know.
I
But
feel like it's a group,
yeah.
but it is like insane. Um, June 11th, police began a search of 800,000 homes to ask door to door for information
What?
because that's how the police have operated up to 1984, like since the war, basically, like
Oh,
since they recovered from the war.
uh,
That's like what they've always done, so that's just what they do. They went door to door to 800,000 homes for any clues.
okay. I get that. That's just like okay. Look, guys, this is how we've always done it here.
Yeah.
But logistically, let's just think about that for a second.
Yeah.
How realistically long would that take? It wouldn't be feasible. There's not enough police officers to make that time frame shrink down to an actual usable time frame to use for this case. There's no possible way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, but that's what they do. Yeah, June
Hey,
11th.
if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. So June 22nd, a letter arrives to the home of Takeshi Haga, which is the president of Marudai Foods, so a new target. And same thing where they say they want money and they threaten to poison their foods. And I don't think, again, like they ever get their money or anything. But June 26th, a couple days later, the group declared a ceasefire with Glico, but they said they would be back in January. But they're like, we're done with Glico for
We've
now.
sco- we've scared you enough, wasted your time enough, dropped your stocks by,
Yeah,
$50. We're gonna call it good now.
right. So June 28th, Marudai is bullied into a secret deal to pay 50 million yen. And there's a voice call to Marudai and police for directions on dropping off the money. And this enters like one of the prime suspects, which is called the Fox-eyed man.
Foxside. What does that mean?
Yeah. I don't know. He has like, I don't know. It's like fox eyes.
What do
I don't
fox
know.
eyes look like?
Well, I have a picture of him in the notes, but it's just kind of more slanted and like narrow like a fox, like where it's like the fox, like
More okay, okay. I'm picking up what you're putting down now. That just threw me off for a
yeah.
second. Okay, we're good. We're
Yeah,
good.
I don't know. That's what they call him is the fox-eyed man. That's what he's known as. I mean Japanese, maybe it's a translation issue,
It could be.
but but the group told Mardai the cash should be tossed from a local train bound for Kyoto when they see a white flag come into view.
That's way too complicated. Okay, listen, is somebody just gonna stand out there waiting?
Apparently, yeah.
Ugh.
Well, this is one way that they would get the money, possibly, like if
That's
it worked.
true. That's true.
'Cause-
I mean, you don't know when it's gonna be, so you wouldn't be able just to stop the train on a dime, you know?
right. Yeah, I
So,
feel like they do want the money, kind of.
well, I would agree that, yeah, I mean, it, especially being a group, it's going to have some incentive, but I think the overall incentive is just to send a message to these guys more than
Yeah,
anything. You know, the
right.
money's like the icing on the cake, but the message is what we're here.
Yeah. So an investigator posed as a Mardai employee and took the money onto the train, and he never saw the white flag, so he
Of
didn't
course
throw
not.
it from the train. Right. But he did notice a suspicious man. That was hard for a second. The fox-eyed man keeping an eye on him while he's on the train. So like he's thinking this guy's like part of it. So he gets off the train at Kyoto Station, like at the end of the line, and then he sat on a bench to wait to go back to Osaka. And the man did the same thing and was just waiting with him. I mean, probably not right next to him, but
Just sat
I
down.
don't know why they didn't arrest him right then or so. I don't know. But then the investigator took the train back to Osaka. The man also got on the train back to Osaka. And then once this guy saw the investigator get off at Takatsuki Station, this guy just got back on to go back to Kyoto. So it was like, what the hell is going on? But there was a different investigator disguised as a passenger on the train. So he followed the guy back to Kyoto Station. So they're just going back and forth.
The ultimate game of cat and mouse, except it's investigators and foxes.
Yeah. So like once they got off at Kyoto Station, this guy like moved as if he knew he was being pursued and like to get away. And the
Mm.
investigator did lose sight of him, so they lost him.
Yeah, because he's sly as a fox, man. That's why they call him the fox-eyed man.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah, it's just crazy that they like just rode the train back and forth and they just kept the money and I don't know.
I mean, maybe could it be it's because that culture is very big on respect and not making quick assumptions and stuff like that. That might be part of the reason why they. I mean, honestly, what do they have besides some weirdo that likes to ride trains? That's the only thing that
Right.
they have. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So you
that's
can't
true.
just assume.
Well, yeah, they
Even
need
though he looks like
more.
a freaking fox, we're not just going to sit here. We're going to follow him back and forth.
Right, yeah. And then they lose them. So there goes our prime suspect. And then July 6th, they try again for Mardai. The group tells them to drop off the money, but once again, they don't show up. They don't get the money. And then they sent a letter declaring an end to the extortion of Mardai. So they were done.
Eh,
Even though like, nothing happened.
thanks for wasting your time again. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they're into wasting the police's time and stuff.
I feel like as of right now, I feel like that is the primary intention. That is the goal.
Yeah,
It's
right.
the money thing is. I think that's all it is to kind of maybe it could be like they're probing their capabilities. They're seeing what they do to sting, out an operation like that, how they would set up, how they would
Mm,
pursue, kind of
yeah,
like doing those probing tactics. You know what I mean?
yeah, that's true. So like I'm sure they're doing this throughout the time, but like I skipped to September 12th because there wasn't really anything new to say besides they asked for money and they don't show up.
Right.
So,
The good old
so
MO.
yeah. So September 12th, a letter arrived to Morinaga, which is the other company that has the name in the case. And this letter contains 3 industrial tablets of sodium hypochlorite, which is bleach,
Mm-hmm.
totaling 30 grams, and 3 poisoned Morinaga products. And they said their company is doing well because Glico is suffering and threatened to put 50 poison products all over if they didn't give them money. So they're like, you need to get in on this too for the suffering.
Oh, okay.
So September 18th, they collect the money, they do the thing, they don't show up. So
Tried and
same.
true. We know what we're getting into here.
Yep. So October 7th, this is suspect number 2, the videotaped man,
Very
because he got
original names
caught.
here.
Yeah. So a man, either 20s or 30s, wearing a baseball
Broad,
cap. Yes.
broad,
Metal frame glasses,
broad.
light tan business casual jacket, white shirt, no tie.
No, that's. Mm-hmm.
He enters a Family Mart at Nishinoya, which Family Mart's kind of like the dollar store,
Yeah, convenience store
but like
of
for
sorts.
food. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
convenience store. Yeah. So he picks up a weekly magazine, he walks around the store a little bit, and he places a square shaped object onto the confectionery shelf. And that's the video that they caught. And then he pays for the magazine and leaves. And once they look at the can, it's Morinaga fruit drops. And it has 0.18 grams of sodium cyanide in it. So that's almost twice the lethal dose. For
Right. Yeah, you
yeah,
you you're gonna
so
be dead.
right. And though attached to the can was a piece of paper that said this has poison in it. If you eat it, you will die. Monster with 21 faces. So they warned people that
Okay, so once again, the intention I don't feel like is to actually kill or make or hospitalize someone.
right. Yeah.
If that was
Yeah, it
the
doesn't
case,
seem like it.
they wouldn't be sending all that stuff to the police and berating them and telling them they're stupid and trying to extort these companies out of money. If that was the true end goal, you could easily send someone into a convenience store and contaminate a pretty wide range of products with that stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that was weird. But they found similar products in Osaka, Hyogo, Kyoto, and Aichi with the same note attached. And these were all tested and they did all contain poison as well. So
So now instead of just
probably,
I'm sorry,
yeah,
just instead of reading about the letters and the threats, now they're actually physically finding items
right.
with cyanide in them.
Right, yeah. So they're actually placing these. And since it was in different cities around the same time, like it'd have to be multiple people placing these too.
I was going to say that I know the distance geographically isn't far, but the country to travel that geographic distance would take a little while. You couldn't just pop over and go to this one and go to this one and go to this one. You'd be
Right.
so.
Yeah. But yeah, they are finding now in the wild poisoned products, but they all have the note that says this is poison. So
Yeah, so it's a
they are
disclaimer,
warning people. Right, yeah. Yeah, warning. Only eat this if you want to die.
Yeah,
They're trying
yeah,
to help people.
they're trying. They're just it's everybody likes the good disclaimer. And being that it was the mid 80s, a lot of companies weren't doing it. So they're just forward thinking, really ahead of their time, just giving you that warning disclaimer at the beginning before you ingest that evil poison into your body.
Right. Yeah, maybe it was like candy's evil. Like candy's
Um,
bad. It's
yeah,
poison, so we're gonna make it poison.
some health nut
So
just going crazy.
yeah. Right. October 8th, they find more laced products in the wild, and then there were 2 letters to newspapers and to food companies. So this read, to all mothers in Japan, in autumn, appetite is huge, candy is great. When you think sweets, it's Morinaga, right? We added some special flavor to it. The flavor of potassium cyanide is a little bitter. Tell children not to get cavities and buy it for them. We placed 20 pieces between Hakata and Tokyo. There are 2 flavors with 0.2 grams and 0.5 grams of acid. After 10 days, we'll place 30 of them without any sign across Japan. We are preparing a lot more for later. Look forward to it. Monster 21 base.
That is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if I was just sitting scrolling through whatever social media feed and that was like the top trending story in the United States,
Yeah.
you
That would
know,
be wild.
I'm just gonna go hunt my own food now. I don't even want to go to the grocery store.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So within 24 hours, 3,500 shops across the country, which included like the little kiosks at like train stations, removed all of Morinaga's products from their shelves.
Holy shit. Yeah.
Yeah. And during this clearing out of products, they did find some that did have poison in them without the sign on it. So they
Okay.
were doing that, what they said in the letter now. So Morinaga's stock plummeted from 670 yen per share during the summer to 380 yen by the end of the year. So like
Mm,
half.
yeah. And that is a pretty big drop for a major corporation, you know.
Yeah. So November 14th, the fox-eyed man enters again. They see him. The
Being all sly, walking around, getting on trains, not doing shit.
right, yeah. Well, so the group, the monster, attempts to collect 100 million yen from house foods, which this was a secret deal that people didn't know about at the time, besides like police, which is why house
Okay.
foods isn't in the thing. So the cash delivery van was waiting in a parking lot by a restaurant in Fushimi Ward, and it received a taped instruction in a child's voice to go to Jonagu bus stop. And there on a bench was an envelope that said move to Otsu service area on the Meishin Expressway, like where else to go? I don't
Well,
know why it's just on a bench. It's just sit on a bench.
I'm not going on a damn scavenger hunt. That's not what I'm doing, okay?
Yeah. Good thing it wasn't windy that day.
Right.
Yeah, and while they were like reading that like letter in the envelope, investigators saw the fox-eyed man. Like he was wearing
Mm,
dark glasses, he had a golf cap on, and he had stepped out from behind a car and was acting strangely,
just
apparently, is
kind
what
of
they said.
poking his head out, just kind of looking around,
Yeah,
making
just
sure.
like
How would they know he's a
just
fox-eyed man if he has dark glasses?
I don't know, but it said one of the investigators that was like with the train, like the one that was pretending to be a passenger on the train was there and like
Ah,
recognized that it
okay.
was him.
Okay. That's that
And
motherfucker that likes to ride trains all the time.
right, yeah. And they said like they thought he was watching the van, like with the money in it, so like he knew what was going on or something. So they were like closing in on him to like arrest him, I think, and then he ran off. And they couldn't catch him again.
Because he's sly as a fox, man. Can slip
Yep.
and slide and get
So
in and out of anything.
right. So he made it out. And so then the van headed to like that designated area that it had said, and it said like go towards Nagoya, and then it said stop your car when you see a piece of white cloth and look for an empty can beneath it for like another note, probably.
Look, man, this is
I
way
don't
too
know.
much work. Way
I
too much
know.
work.
Like, why are they so into like these little like, oh, when you see this like little thing that could be confused as trash and be thrown away, like
When,
whatever.
yeah, when you see the newspaper that somebody threw out of their car on the ground,
Yeah,
stop.
right. Yeah, there'll be a secret note in there.
Yeah.
Um, they did find the white cloth, but there wasn't any can underneath it, so they were kind of stuck at that point. And
Surprise,
at
surprise.
10:30, right at 10:30 p.m., they called it off and left. And they did say they thought it ended up being like designed to test them and there wasn't going to be anyone there, which I would think you would know at this point that no one's going to be there.
Well, how many times is this now? This is
A
what?
lot.
Yeah. I mean,
So this started like March and this is November.
yeah. Like every time you have done any sort of transfer, drop of money, anything like that, guess what they've done? Not shown up.
Right. Exactly. But while the van was waiting at this white cloth at around 9:30 p.m., a different police officer on a routine patrol found a suspicious station wagon with its headlights off and engine running. And this was on a road beneath the expressway, and it was like 50 meters away from where the white cloth was tied. And they were
Mm.
like looking at that. Yeah, and this officer had no idea on the operation going on because originally the monster in the letter had said it would be like Kyoto area, but it ended up being in Nagoya, so they didn't like warn those police officers to like look for things.
Yeah, that's not too surprising because I mean they have to be somewhat compartmentalized in these investigations to
Right.
not, let everybody know these things are happening.
Right. So this guy just was on his routine thing. He pulled up to check on the driver. He said the driver was a thin-faced man in his 40s with a cap pulled low as if concealing himself. And he had an earphone and he was listening to a radio receiver. And like when the officer shone his flashlight on him, the driver like startled and drove away. And this caused a high-speed chase down like these narrow, really narrow roads. But eventually the station wagon did get away. So it was
The
just
thin-faced
frustrating.
man was listening to the fox-eyed man about where
Yeah,
to
the
leave the next
station.
bullshit clue
Right.
for the
Yeah,
police.
suspect number three, the station wagon
Yeah,
driver. Yeah, the station wagon was found abandoned at Kusatsu Station, and left inside was a customized transceiver capable of listening in on police radio communications in six different prefectures, which were like the states, which included Osaka and Kyoto. And there was nothing else like left really as like clues to help lead to the monster, and no fingerprints at all were left. So
interesting. These guys
yeah,
know what
so
they're
they
doing.
do. Right. They do think this driver was part of it, though. So,
Oh, for sure. A custom
yeah.
made, like, especially in the mid 80s,
Yeah.
like, that's not something that you would just have. That
Right.
takes some level of ingenuity to, you know, I'm going to go ahead and make a receiver that I can receive all incoming traffic from 6 different cities of police traffic. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's
Right. Yeah, it's huge. So after this, the group continued to harass house foods for a few weeks. And then for December and January, they moved to harassing Fujia, which is a retail and restaurant company. And this ended up with them demanding that the company throw money from the rooftops of skyscrapers in Tokyo and Osaka.
just down to the
So it's like
people.
a movie.
Yeah, yeah. Just down to the people walking the streets.
Yeah, yep. Just
Huh.
give the money to the people, I guess.
Here, what we're
And
going to
maybe,
do is this is a large organization. We're all going to insert underneath this building and act just like normal people walking to and from, and
right,
everybody try to get at least $100. Okay, we got to get our
right,
money's
yeah.
worth here.
Yeah, we've been trying to get money, we haven't this whole time. Yeah, so around January 12th, the police officially released the sketch of the Fox-Eyed Man to the public. Like before this, they hadn't been releasing anything, but like obviously the public is upset that it's been this long. So they felt like they had to release this sketch.
Is that black and white sketch that you see all over the place whenever you look this up? Is that the fox-eyed man? Okay,
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
that's the Fox-Eyed Man.
Doesn't look like a
So
fox.
on yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they call it that, but on January 26th, the Monster with 21 Faces sent a letter to a major media company saying tormenting Morinaga was to save face as a man, which is like, okay. Some
Yeah.
people kind of think it was like Yakuza related, partly because of
Mm,
that, because like there's
yeah.
other stuff going on and they gotta save face or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So February they circled back to targeting Morinaga, and they also began sending letters to two new targets, which is Meiji and Lotte, which are the big like chocolate companies, like Pocky.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So since those two are more specifically like candy, I mean Morinaga is too, but like they had branched out to other food, but like they went back to candy for February. So people were worried that they were going to do something like for Valentine's Day since they had talked about that.
Uh,
And again there were like some candies found for Morinaga on the shelves that were poisoned again, but these did have notes on them again that said they were poisoned.
we felt bad about not leaving notes last time. Okay, guys, we
Right.
we messed up, and we don't want to actually hurt anybody. Just send a message.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, this kind of thing continues like all summer. This whole, cat and mouse never collecting the
Right.
stuff and going after. So, like by August, the public is very mad that there are like zero clues or anything. This has been over a year. So Shoji Yamamoto, who was the police superintendent of Shiga Prefecture, he was relieved of his post and reassigned to the National Police Agency, which I guess is a demotion. I don't really know. I mean, he was reassigned, but he was
Mm.
told to leave because he hadn't found any evidence or whatever. And then a few days later, on August 7th, he did end up committing suicide by setting himself on fire because he blamed himself for not like catching these people.
Well, that's horrible. Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, he is the only death. So,
And it was
which is crazy.
self-inflicted. It wasn't
Right.
from eating contaminated candy or foodstuffs or anything like that.
Right.
So,
Yeah, there were no accidental poisonings or like no one ate the things that said this has poison in it
well,
or
I would hope not, you know.
right. Well, some people might be like, I don't believe it.
Uh, liars, try it out.
Yeah. So 5 days after he committed suicide, the group, the monster, did send a letter to various media outlets saying Yamamoto died. How foolish of him. We've got no friends and no hiding places in Shiga. It's Yoshino or Shikata who should have died. So I guess those are other prefectures, like heads.
Mm.
Um, but it said, what have they been up to in the last 17 months? Don't let bad guys like us get away with it. Many fools want to copy us. Officer Yamamoto died like a man, so we've decided to make him a funeral offering. We've decided to stop picking on food manufacturers. If anyone blackmails such companies, it's not us, but someone copying us. And then it said, we're bad guys. We've got other things to do than bullying companies, and it's fun to lead a villain's life. And that's the end of it. Like they pulled out themselves, I guess, and like no companies were ever targeted again.
See, that's why I think two things, like we talked about at the beginning. I think it was definitely a group, and I think it was just a fucking game. I
Yeah,
really think it was just a, hey, let's mess with these people. And I do like how you kind of said, kind of coined back to like the organized crime within, the country of Japan,
mm. Yeah,
of how that could possibly be playing into it. Just some guys that are getting bored. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, let's see if we
yeah,
can mix some stuff up real quick.
right. Yeah, or to distract from the war, I
Yeah,
guess that was going on.
yeah, it'd be a good
Because
distraction for sure.
yeah, because I guess that got really bad. Like in the newspapers, they would have like tallies of who killed who in the war between. Like it would have like
Mm,
this yakuza and the death tolls for both, like every day. So.
hmm.
Yeah, but we can get into the suspects.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So obviously the Fox-eyed man, he's the
Oh yeah,
prime
the
suspect.
the thin-faced man driving the
Yeah, we'll get
whatever.
to him. This yeah, station wagon. I was like, what is it called?
Yeah.
Well, so the Fox-eyed man, he's seen twice. Apparently they think he's some kind of ringleader type from just seeing him those two times.
Uh,
But also apparently he looks exactly like Manabu Miyazaki, this guy who literally everyone thinks that he is the Fox-eyed man because he looks exactly the
okay.
same.
I got you.
Yeah, and he was born October 25th, 1945, so he'd be 39 at this time. So
Okay.
like
Yeah.
kind of fits
Yeah.
the description. He did die March 2022, so like we're probably never gonna know at this point.
No.
But he did grow up in a Yakuza family. So like because people think Yakuza were involved somehow, that like he might have had a part of it. But when he did like move out, he didn't stay in the Yakuza family business, but he was like really into like social and political issues.
Yeah, he's probably
And like
still in it.
yeah, probably. Because like when he was in when he was a teenager, he was like really interested in the communist political movement group, like the
Mm,
JCP there.
yeah, yeah,
And he said what attracted him to that was the awesome resolve of an organization prepared to use illegal means to accomplish its goal of overturning society.
yeah.
So
Just
it's
good
like,
moral fun. No big deal there.
right. And he also said perhaps it was because of my youthful enthusiasm, but it was the illegal activity in particular that attracted me to it. So it's like, this seems like this group too.
Yeah, well, I don't think any of these people in the group, because I think we're both convinced it probably is a group. Um,
Yeah.
it's too organized to not be something nefarious. You know what I mean? They
Right.
have you can tell these people have been trained and conditioned to do, at least some sort of subversive tactics. If they can
Yeah.
slip away from police, if they can slip away from what do they call the FBI, the national um
The yeah, national agency or whatever.
yeah, I mean if they can get away from these, quote unquote three-letter organizations, for
Yeah.
months at a time and then never get caught,
Right.
they're some high-speed corrupted, criminals organization or something.
Yeah, and like he grew up with the Yakuza. His dad was like one of the heads of one of the
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yakuza groups. So like he's very familiar with how to get away with things for
Oh,
sure.
yeah. He'd been trained from birth.
Yeah. Um but yeah, when he goes to college, he doesn't ever go back to Kyoto to see his family. So I feel like he does kind of cut ties with them a little bit. But then he did, after his dad died, he went back to help his family out of like bankruptcy, but he wasn't successful at doing that.
Mm,
So that could be a money motivation, maybe, because he had a lot of debt from that.
well, sure, but they didn't get any money, and I don't feel like they ever wanted any money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
So I get the motivation, but if you were unsuccessful, you would think you would try to at least make one of those drops happen.
Yeah, I mean, some people think that they were successful in like those secret dealings, like specifically,
Oh, I
like
see what you're
maybe
saying.
without the
Yeah,
police
yeah,
being
yeah.
involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Probably.
Um, but yeah, no one really knows that. But yeah, when that sketch of the Fox-eyed man was like dropped, like literally everyone was calling him to say, "How are you doing this?" and like, "How are you getting away with it?" and "Hey, do you have money to give me?" and like they thought it was him,
Dude,
every single person.
you're on the news, man. You need to cut this shit out. You need to give me some money, all right?
Yeah, like literally his friends in the Yakuza, like other people that knew him, like everyone was saying, "What are you doing and how are you getting away with it?" But he swears he was not that guy, even though he has admitted himself that he looks exactly like the sketch. So it's like weird.
It might not, it's not me, but if it was me, we don't look, we look pretty similar.
Right, yeah. Yeah, so like other reasons that he could have been this, he does have a history, like what I said with the Yakuza,
Hmm.
but he has manipulated the media when he was on the wanted list for fraud related to corporate extortion, like as an adult, not as
Fits,
a teen in
fits,
his.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, fits that
right.
MO pretty well.
Also, the paper used for the letters, like all 147 letters, was bought at a stationery shop in Injo, which this paper is only made in Injo. And
Mm.
this stationery shop is also like a long-standing supplier of his family's company. So it's like, okay, he has history with that. And also like he was very involved in the labor union side with Glico, like before this started.
Oh, so he kind of knew inner workings of the company.
Yeah, because he went to like law school and stuff. So he was like in the organizing the labor and stuff
Hmm.
for
Okay.
this.
Okay.
So like that's a motivation. And also apparently he um like made the union leader resign over irregularities in like the union's accounting. That like this came to light when Glico Foods and Glico Ham merged in 1982. So like only 2 years before. But like he kind of made or like pushed this person into resignation when that came
Interesting.
out. So
So
he has
not,
some pull.
yeah, Eddie's good at, like you said, not only manipulating the media, but obviously manipulating people too.
Yeah, and like because he grew up in Kyoto, like Osaka, I guess. Kyoto's really next, like close to that. But like he had a company that he ran that was located like by where the cash delivery van was told to go to for that house foods thing. And he had like work sites and clients near like all these places that they told him to meet, like the big places, like he had property or a company or something like
Yeah,
nearby.
some entity near those places.
Right. And also, Like one of the things was close to like the photocopy center where they think all the all the letters were photocopied. I don't know how they know that, but so yeah, he's very familiar with all that. Um, oh, also someone who was affiliated with his relative's company had the same typewriter that the group had said they were using,
That's kind of a
but I
stretch,
don't know how
you
many of
know.
those. Yeah. And well, one of his relatives did have the same car, like the same color and make
Okay, but still,
that was, yeah, that was used for the kidnapping.
well,
And he's also,
that was that gray
yeah,
whatever, right? Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
come
the
on.
gray car. Yeah, he is also associated with a Yakuza who blackmailed Izaki Glico after the Yakuza's son cut himself when opening a can of a Glico product. So, like, he knows other Yakuza people who have grudges maybe against Glico, I guess, that started the whole thing.
Stupid can
Um,
coming after your whole
yeah,
business.
right. But yeah, like, the police are so determined that he's the Fox-Eyed Man, but, like, there's a problem. Like, he has alibis for both times that they saw
Oh, of
the
course he
Fox-Eyed Man.
does.
Yeah, like, I guess he looked at his diary when the police were questioning him, because this was like a while ago. But he said on June 28th, 1984, he was attending a union meeting at a college of music. And then on the second time they saw him, on November 14th, he was in Tokyo consulting with his lawyer. So, like, very
Mm,
public places
yeah.
that people, with your lawyer, though, I mean, your lawyer could lie. I don't know.
Well, yeah. The first one, if that checks out with people being able to see him, that's like you said, very public. The second one,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, the police could never refute these alibis, so they could never arrest him
Well, I mean, they
or
can't catch him
anything.
either, so I mean, I don't expect it.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
right.
so
Yeah, so they moved on to another suspect, which was the ex-head of a Yakuza organization affiliated with the Yamaguchi uh, Yakuza, but they called him B, like the letter B in the,
oh, okay,
because they
not
like
BEE.
just put in the, no, they just like put in the initials or whatever in the police
Oh,
reports.
I see. Okay.
But he was the ringleader of incident creators, is what they called him. And he was
Okay.
also, yeah, he was also associated with Miyazaki. So, like, everything that we already said about Miyazaki could apply to this guy,
Mm-hmm.
too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And apparently he had quit the Yakuza when, like, the split happened and he went into legitimate business. But, like I said, that
Eh,
split that started this war was happening, like, during this case. Like, that
right.
happened on June 13th, 1984. So it's kind of in the middle of this stuff. So he could have
Right.
still been involved.
Most likely. Most likely.
Yeah. Also, 2 months after like the ceasefire declaration letter for Glico, he received 300 million yen in his bank account from one of the like newly targeted companies. So
Oh,
that could have
another
been
one
like
of those
one
secret
of the
deals.
secret
Yeah.
deals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And also yeah, he did have some meat producers also associated with him that had a grudge against Glico for some reason.
Well, I
Against
mean,
Glico ham, I guess. Um, but yeah, police questioned him for 2 days, I guess, and he didn't crack, and they couldn't get any evidence like out of him, so they had to let him go. And he had told the detectives when they let him go that they had it all wrong and had always been going in the wrong direction for suspects. So it seems like maybe he
he
knows
knew.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And then the last suspect kind of is Nishimoto, which they called NS in the police reports. But he was part of the Public Security Intelligence Agency first, but then he quit suddenly in 1978, and he had showed up at Miyazaki's doorstep looking for help then, which
Hmm.
his primary job was to get close to like left-wing activists and gather information for them to give to the government. So that's how he had met Miyazaki, like when Miyazaki was in college, and they became friends. So he didn't, I mean, they became real friends, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, when Miyazaki like went back to Kyoto later, they kind of lost touch. But yeah, this guy became addicted to gambling and drinking, so he quit his job.
As
He
one
went to
does.
Kyoto. Yeah, he went to Kyoto to find Miyazaki for help, and he had like a woman and their child with him. So like some people think that child's voice that was in part of the,
Oh, yeah.
maybe
Okay.
that was this kid. But yeah, like because he knows Miyazaki, like everything we already said about Miyazaki could also be applied to him again.
Yeah, yeah.
But he also was used to handling potassium cyanide because he had previously worked as a chemical manufacturer, like working with it every day. So like he could
So,
have gotten it
yeah,
from
yeah,
that.
for sure.
Right.
So what I'm gonna put the tinfoil hat on for a second. What if it's all three of them?
Right. Yeah.
Like
And
that's
plus there are other people or whatever. There
well,
are
that's
other
what I was saying.
Yakuza.
Like that's the top three. Like you have
Right.
the crime ring trinity right there. Whatever you want to call it, and then you have all the associates that are with each
Yeah.
of them. That would be a pretty substantial amount of people, I would think.
Right. I mean, I feel like that is true. Like, Miyazaki's the Fox-eyed man.
Hmm.
Maybe B is the videotaped man. And
Maybe
then this guy, Nishimoto, he was also like he's suspected to be the driver of the station
the
wagon.
thin-faced man,
Yeah, the thin-faced man, because he was a member of the driving club in college. So
the
he had an
driving
advanced,
club. Okay,
yeah, I guess. So he had an advanced license. Like he could have, I don't know, it's kind of like street racing, but as a club, but not illegal.
not illegal. Okay, I'm picking up putting
Like
down.
on a track kind of or something.
Okay,
Like
okay.
he was very used to like driving recklessly and fast, especially down narrow back streets,
The
which
Japanese
is what
Ricky Bobby.
yeah, which is what the station wagon guy did. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, I mean, they couldn't get any evidence on any of these people, so they never convicted anyone, and it's still a mystery. So,
Well, I mean, I don't think they would. Every single person that you've just listed, those three primary suspects, are very good at subversion and keeping stuff secret and working for
mm,
organizations that, you know, have to compartmentalize and have to have secrets and have to have, complete, control and command over certain things.
right. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, Miyazaki did write an autobiography in 2005, which was mostly about his like life, like growing up in the Yakuza, but he talked about this case since he was the prime suspect.
Sure.
And the cover of the book is the police sketch of the Fox-eyed man. So he's like
Poking
poking fun
fun
at it.
still. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of interesting stuff in there, but yeah, I feel like he was definitely that guy,
I
and he's
feel
just
like,
got away with it.
well, yeah. I mean, I feel like with all the similarities between the three, that's kind of where I'm leaning right now. Is they
Yeah.
were they were all three involved. They all three used the manpower and resources they had available to them, and kind of I'm sure they were doing other shady deals outside of just this, but this might have just been like I can't escape the gameplay of what this feels like. It doesn't feel
Yeah.
like we're trying to actually do anything. We're just trying to mess with these companies. That's what it
Right. Yeah,
feels
you're
like.
just fucking with them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever watched like Death Note, the anime, but it really reminds me of like all the bullshit in there of like get on the train and then get off of this timer. like
Well, that
like there's some
aspect,
scenes in that like that.
I'll have to ask my daughter about that. She's been kind of getting into that. So,
Yeah, I think this case like inspired a lot of that in there.
oh, okay. Well, cool.
But yeah. So yeah, that's kind of it.
Kind of it. There's always more
Yep.
to it. So
Yeah.
listeners, we always encourage you to, don't listen to us because, we kind of know what we're talking about like a quarter of the time. But, check this stuff out on your own as well.
Right, yeah.
But no, I mean, I do enjoy this a lot, man. Like I said, I knew like minimal aspects to this. I kind of knew like, okay, a group of people were poisoning food. That's about
Yeah.
the extent of really what I knew about this. So it's always real
Yeah.
interesting to get that deep dive perspective from it.
Right. Yeah, it's really crazy what all
Yeah.
happened.
Oh, oh man, I don't know. So I think that'll probably wrap it up for, today's episode. Um, Listeners, we are live pretty much everywhere, which you guys should already know. If you want to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, Threads, pretty much any any social media that you can think of, we are probably there. And you can see any of the short content. If you want to comment down below on anything and give us recommendations, Sarah and I can take a look at it and, give us some good ideas to move forward with this. Sarah has a plethora
Yeah.
of them, but I'm sure we can find something that you guys, would like us to do. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that will probably do it.
And remember, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not watching.